Hello everyone, welcome to the smallest spoiler talk ever, and I don't mean that in size, well, maybe, who knows, but that was a reference to Ant-Man. Anyway, this movie starts off in 1989 where Hank won't give the pen particles the shield and then smashes someone's head on a desk and then leaves, which, if that is not a badass exit, I don't know what is, let's be honest here. Meanwhile, in present day, in the year of 2015, Scott is getting out of prison and we meet the best character ever, Luis, who picks him up and they have a little drive afterwards. Scott gets fired from an ice cream place, which I won't name because look, this movie is sponsored by them, but I'm not, so I'm gonna call it an ice cream place. However, the last customer he has to deal with wants something hot and fresh out of an ice cream place. Which, that is the joke. But the dude who fires him is like, all the robbery stuff that you did, yeah, so cool. By the way, you're fired. Bye. But you can't steal something here. I'll just pretend I didn't see it, okay? And then when Scott gets home, his resume basically gets read to Dave and Kurt. And basically, the backstory of how Scott Lang landed in prison is that he worked at a tech company that was kind of doing something bad with money. And when Scott gave a complaint about it, the company kind of pushed it under a rug, so Scott instead stole the money and gave it to the poor, a la Robin Hood style, and that's why he landed in prison, which is actually really dangerous because he has a child. Like, well, why would you risk everything for your child? But the job that Luis has, Scott's not gonna participate. Meanwhile, Hank Pym returns to his company after 500 years of not being there. It's actually funny because when he gets to the building, the security guard is like, ID, and then Hank is like, I think that will suffice, and big portrait of Hank Pym on the wall. It's like, come on. The movie's funny, but some jokes are a little bit pushing it, but I still thought it was funny. But there's trouble brewing at the company, because when Hank enters, we meet Darren Cross, our main bad guy of the movie, and when he gets Hank to the main room, he has like a little statue of Cross technologies instead of Pym technologies, as in taking over the company. And I was like, well, why would you have that there? Just in plain view. Alright, sure. Why not? But then basically he talks about the Ant-Man and the fact that you can become small, and when Cross learned about that first, Hank basically lied to him and said that there is no such thing as an Ant-Man. But Cross is kind of close on creating the shrinking technology with the yellow jacket, as he calls it. And it also, when he enters the building, it looks like him and Hope are not really friendly with each other. But then it turns out that they are working together, so that's fun. So, Scott goes to his daughter's birthday party, gives the most horrifying creature to his own daughter as a birthday present. She loves it, and then he gets kicked out because he hasn't paid child support at all. But let's be honest here, the dude's been in prison. How do you pay child support? Also, you can't really get a job after you've been in prison. At least it's difficult, so don't go to prison, kids. So he basically gets kicked out, and then he asks the ex-wife about visitation, and she's like, well, if you can get yourself a stable job, pay child support, and also, you have a stable home, then maybe we could talk about the whole child support thing. But for now, no. But before he leaves, he hits the horn on his van, which will come into play later. Don't you worry about that one. And back with Cross and Hank, when he's displaying the yellow jacket, there's a guy there named Frank. And he's like, look, this technology, it could be bad in the wrong hands, so maybe it shouldn't really be invented, or at least mass produced. There's also another guy there who's like, I'll buy it immediately, and that guy is Hydra, which I don't know if he works for Ward, but I'm just gonna say that he works for Ward. Later on, Cross waits for Frank in the bathroom, and gives him a towel, and then uses the technology that he has, the shrinking technology on him, and then turns him to mush and flushes him down the toilet. Because he can shrink objects, but he hasn't gotten close to the technology to shrink people yet, or animals. So because of the fact that it went bad at his daughter's birthday party, Scott decides to accept Luis's job. So now it is time for the job. We need to get a bunch of stuff, and after that, we're gonna go into the job. And this really shows how smart he is, because he climbs up there, disables the alarm, uses a knife to open up the window, gets in, goes downstairs. Okay, it's very convenient that the key's lying there, but he grabs the key, opens up the door, but there's a bigger door and it needs a fingerprint. So Scott goes back upstairs, uses a bit of tape in order to get a fingerprint off the door, puts a ring on it, not like that, and then puts a bunch of glue on it and then heats it up to kind of make it hard. Not like that. and then uses that in order to open up the door. I thought that it was genius. But then afterwards, the safe is here. And it's a safe that is kind of old because it's kind of made of the same metal of which the Titanic was made. And if you remember that weakness, it turns out that that one is weak to ice types. So Scott basically puts down a bunch of stuff, freezes the door, lets it fall on it, and then in there is nothing but the Ant-Man suit. So he takes the Ant-Man suit and he leaves. So back with Cross, he's trying an experiment with a sheep, I think, or was it a goat? I forgot which one of the two it was. I think it might have actually been a goat. And it turns out that that goes wrong. And back with Scott, he tries out the Ant-Man suit for the first time, and he's like, yeah, I look pretty cool. And then the boys come home and he just turns himself small. Then Hank talks to him because he knows that it's been stolen, and it kind of let that happen. So then we have some hijinks involving the bath water, a needle from a turntable, I think it was a turntable, and also the heels of women. And finally, the roof of a car. That's basically how the whole adventure goes. However, after that little adventure, Scott decides to return the thing. And then the cops arrive and he's like, no, I didn't steal anything. I returned something I stole, okay? So he gets arrested. And then Hank Pym visits him in jail. Has the ants block the camera while they talk. So Hank is like, oh, hey. Told you we'd meet again. So I need your help. So you could either accept my offer or rot in jail forever. Which one do you want? So Scott goes back to jail, and then the ants bring a miniaturized Ant-Man suit and then expand it in order to make it big enough so Scott can fit in it. And then the ants go 10, 9, 8, and I swear to God, he cannot put that thing on in what, like 6 seconds? He can't put that on in 5 to 6 seconds. Come on, dude. But he puts it on, and then he becomes small, and then he leaves, and we meet second best character in the movie, Anthony. R.I.P. the boy. So Scott is on the back of Anthony. Anthony flies too high, so Scott gets a bit dizzy, falls off, and wakes up at Pym's house with Hope standing there looking at him. And he's like, have you watched me sleep? And she's like, yep. And there are a bunch of, I think it was bullet ants or crazy ants. I forgot which one it was. But he basically gets a direction from them to the living room. At which point, Hope gets mad at Hank because of the fact that she should be the one in the suit. At least that's what she says. And he's like, no. So after a bit of arguing, eventually... Also, I liked it when they are sitting at the table. Ants come in with, like, it's like, do you want some sugar? Yeah, sure. And then the ants bring 2 sugar blocks. Like, yeah, no, I don't really want sugar anymore. Don't you worry about that one. But eventually, Scott agrees to help stop Cross because that is the job, what we need to do. And we also learned that Hope helped kick Hank out of the company. But afterwards, she saw the error of her ways and then returned to him in order to stop him. Meanwhile, at Cassie's place, I'm just gonna call it Cassie's place, we have Cassie who asked the cop guy, Paxton, if he's gonna arrest her dad. And he's like, yep. And she's like, I hope you don't catch him. And I was like, yeah. And Cross has now put another goat in a container and has shrunk the container with the goat inside. And now he has officially obtained the shrinking tech. Kind of. He can't shrink people normally, but when they are in the suit, I guess they will be able to shrink. So he's done it. Also, back with Hank and Scott, Hank calls the Iron Man suit a cute piece of tech, which I thought was very funny. And also the fact that he basically explains what they need to do. And then Scott is like, yeah, we should call the Avengers. And Hank is like, yeah, I'm not gonna let this fall into the hands of a Stark. I've spent years trying to keep it out of the hands of one. I'm not about to give it to one. So now it is time for a bit of a training montage where Scott fails over and over and over again. He needs to go through a keyhole but keeps battering into the door. He needs to meet the ants in the ant holes, but the problem is the fact that he keeps getting overwhelmed by the ants and keeps getting big again. And yeah, it's a funny montage. I very much enjoyed the montage. And also we learned the fact that Hank has been lying to Hope about how Janet died, or her mom died, and that is a bit sad. And also we learn, because Scott is trying to mess with the suit, and then Hank is like, don't screw with the regulator or you'll go subatomic and then basically be gone forever. Hint, hint. And we also get gifted the disc weapons, which one of them will make things shrink and the other thing will make things expand. But Hope eventually has a freak out about the fact that she isn't allowed to be in the suit, and also about how her dad won't tell her how her mom died. And the freak out basically happens with her just controlling a bunch of ants and getting a bit horror-y. So she eventually leaves, Scott follows her, and Scott basically tells her, look, the reason your dad doesn't want you in the suit is because you're Like, I'm expendable. You aren't. He cares about you. If I die tomorrow, oh, too bad. As long as the job gets done. But he can't lose you, okay? That's why. So she then helps him control the ants, and he controls the ants and has them spin a coin. So I like that. Then they go inside, and then Hank tells the story of what really happened. And that was back in the day, I forgot which country, launched a missile. And then Hank and Janet had to stop the missile. However, there was only one way to do it, because this metal was too sturdy. They couldn't cut through it. So, the only thing to do was to go subatomic and destroy it. However, Hank's regulator was busted, so he couldn't do it. So Janet didn't really hesitate. She did it and just started smashing through it, and that's how she vanished. And then we have a nice moment between Hope and Hank, and Hope forgives him for... She basically is like, it wasn't your fault, but he does blame himself. And also, she told Scott before that for like 2 months, she needed her dad when she was 7 and her mom vanished, but he wasn't there for her. That's because her dad was busy trying to get the mom back, and that's also what he spent 10 years or so doing. And that nice moment gets ruined by Scott, who then comments the way that I do. That is a very nice moment, but he then ruins the moment. So let the first mission begin. The first part. We need to get a piece of tech from a storage facility. Easy as that, isn't it? It should be that. It should be easy. Come on. What is this? This building can't be important. It's just a Stark facility in the middle of nowhere. It's perfect. So we fly over there. They jump out. When the clouds clear, we learn, oh, hey, that's the Avengers compound from the end of Age of... Oh, no. We gotta infiltrate the Avengers compound. So Hope and Hank are like, abort mission now. But Scott isn't going to abort nothing. So... he goes in, he lands on the roof, and then we have a visitor. And this apparently was the entire reason why Edgar Wright didn't finish the movie. At least those are the stories that I've heard, that the reason that Edgar Wright left is because of the fact that Marvel wanted the Ant-Man movie to be connected to the MCU. And he kind of was a bit more hesitant on it, and that seems why he left. However, I also heard the reason why this movie is the way that it is, or as good as it is. But he arrives at the top, and then we have the greatest of Avengers, who is supposed to be out searching for a one-armed man. Don't know what he's doing. But we have Falcon. Yay. They're probably the only one that they could pay, because getting Robert Downey Jr. in this movie probably would have doubled the movie's budget. So instantly, like, Scott is like, don't worry, he can't see me. And then Falcon's like, I can see you. So Scott becomes big and takes off his helmet, basically. And then it's like, yo, I'm Scott. It's like, did he just say, yo, hey, I'm Scott? It's like, you're the dumbest guy. It's like, he's like, I'm a big fan, but I need some tech, and I need to save the world with it. You know how it is. And then we have a fight between Ant-Man and Falcon, and Ant-Man wins because, you know, he's the more important character between the two of them. At least he got a solo movie. But I guess now Falcon has also gotten a solo movie, but it wasn't as Falcon. It was as the less impressive Captain America. A movie that by the time of recording this I have not yet seen, so I have no opinion on whether it's good or bad. But the decision to turn Falcon into Captain America, I think, is a stupid decision, and I hate it. But the fight is actually pretty cool. I mean, Falcon is putting up a good fight against a character that is like really tiny and very hard to see. But eventually he goes into the facility, Falcon follows him in, closes the door, and then Falcon breaks through because Scott is inside of his suit, just ripping everything apart, being like, wow, you're a really nice guy, but sorry about this. I apologize immensely, but it must be done, you know? Takes everything out, and then he jumps on Anthony and then flies off, goes back home, gets yelled at by Hank, at which point he then pulls the thing that they needed out of his pocket, and then Hank is happy again. However, that happiness does not last because, well, Hank is going over to his study. We have Darren, who has broken in, and later we learn why. But he apparently has some good news, and he wants Hank to be there when he delivers the good news. And also, he then later on calls Hope, and he says to her that he's gonna increase security, and you know what that means, right? We gotta get the boys in. So the boys come in, and immediately Luis is like, wow, this is the first time that you get invited back to a place that you stole from. And then they all pretend to be big shots until Hank drops the ball about the fact, like, yeah, I let you steal from me. And then Dave is like, what if we let you think that you were gonna let us steal from you? Ah, maybe you'll learn some of that. And he tries to throw it back, but it doesn't really work. And we have Luis, who's gonna be in the system. He's gonna be in the system. And Scott visits his daughter. And we have the fact that Luis is part of the security team. Kurt and Dave are gonna be in the van. And Kurt is gonna make sure that the grid is offline once all the other stuff is done. Because we're gonna have some ants plant some C4. We're gonna have some ants fry the hard drives. And we're gonna have some other ants do some other stuff. It's basically an antception. However, also, because of the fact that they can't use the vents, Scott's idea is that they use the water pipes. So, that's why we needed someone on the inside, which Luis then is like, oh yeah, hey, I'm supposed to be here. The boss told me to be here. And then the guy's like, I'm the boss. And then Luis just knocks him out, turns off the valve, lowers the pressure so that they can get in. It was funny. Just hides him in the corner somewhere. Nobody really cares about that guy. However, as Hank is arriving, because of the fact that the cops learned of the fact that the lawyer, quote-unquote, was actually Hank Pym. So we have Paxton and another cop there who are ready to talk to Hank Pym. So Hank Pym tells them, like, look, this is of grave importance. However, when they see this, they want to basically say that there is a problem. However, Dave has an idea. He gets out, he gets into the police car and crashes it into a tree and escapes back to the van. At which point he's very happy and hits the horn. And that's why the horn was sounded earlier on. It all comes back. But basically, everything seems to be going fine. And we have Kurt, who is hacking the grid in order to turn it off. But he needs to wait for it to be done. However, now the cops are at the van. So they basically get into the van, pull the two guys out. However, Kurt is able to escape and hit the thing in order to turn it off. Because it's like, it's at 100%. And Kurt says, go. So Scott jumps. And then Kurt gets pulled out of the van. And it's like, wait. It's like, what do you mean? Wait, I jumped. So he falls down. And then Kurt hits the button. And then bam. He's down there, ready to grab the suit. However, but no. Ready to grab the suit. Meanwhile, Hank goes inside. And basically walks to the demonstration room with the other people who are also going to be part of who are also going to see that room. And Hope is there as well, so they all get in. Scott tries to grab this yellow jacket suit. Doesn't work because of the fact this was all planned. So the yellow jacket suit goes away. The lasers cut the cord. And now Ant-Man is trapped. Absolutely perfect. And then Darren reveals everything. That he knew of the plan because he saw that this guy, Scott Lang, was on it. And he knew that this was going to happen, so he planned for it. And he also saw Hope at that house because now we got the big reveal that Cross was there to kill Hank. But when he saw Hope, he couldn't do it. And also, Darren is like, are you proud of me? And in my review, I talked about the fact that there's like one moment where they tried to do a little bit with Darren. And this is that moment when he's like, are you proud of me? It's like, oh, you're trying one of those things, huh? Are you, he did all of this to make Daddy proud. And also at this point, we also learned that the dude inside is Hydra. So that's fun too. But he has some guards point the gun at Hank. Then Hope tries to plead with him. And then he's like, alright, fine, I have to do it myself. So he pulls the gun towards Hank. And then Scott escapes and Cross shoots Hank and escapes. And he's like, after getting attacked by a couple ants. But then he's like, anything that comes out of that vault, kill it. So Ant-Man comes out of the vault and then starts to kind of escape from the guys with the test footage that you saw way back when after the Avengers came out. And then we have Luis who punches two of the shooting people and saves the day. So Ant-Man goes after Darren. So Ant-Man goes after Kid Darren and he gets on top of Anthony and they fly after the chopper in order to get there. However, Anthony gets shot and killed. R.I.P. the boy. Ah, what a trooper he was. And then Scott enters the chopper and he says that, you know, stealing stopping Cross wasn't really the only plan. Meanwhile, back in the vault, Hope and Hank are there and they need to figure out a way of escape. However, Hank has a way of escape because at the end of his keys, he has a little tank as a keychain. Turns out that is a real tank. And if you really want to get into the logistics of things, it doesn't really work because that tank is still supposed to be about as heavy as a real tank. But whatever. They make it big. They get it off the keys. They make it big and then they escape before the building implodes in upon itself and vanishes. So Ant-Man tries to stop Cross, but it doesn't work. He almost flies out. And then when he gets back into the chopper, Cross has put the yellow jacket suit on, and now we have the final battle, kind of, but not really, but kind of. So they start to fight a little bit, and then they accidentally go into the briefcase, and then they have a little fight to a little song while the briefcase falls into the water. Afterwards, Yellow Jacket appears from it, destroys someone's phone, and then Ant-Man appears from it, and then attacks him, and they have a little bit of a fight until eventually Ant-Man pushes him into a bug zapper. There you go, he's potentially dead, but he's not dead. At this point, the two cops arrive and arrest him. Scott tries to explain that it's like, dude, in that bug zapper is something really bad, and then Paxton is like, I don't want to hear this, okay? You need to stop with your delusions. And it's like, look, alright, you can say those words about a lot of people nowadays, but you can't say those words to Ant-Man because it's true. So they then get a report about the fact that there's trouble happening in a specific building, and then they both realize, oh, that's where Cassie is. So they go over there, the cops get out, and then Scott is like, let me out and let me help too, but it's like, no. So Scott pushes his head through his helmet without his while his hands are tied behind his back, so it's a little bit more difficult, puts on the helmet, and then shrinks and goes inside to help his daughter. So Scott goes in, and then we have the final battle, kind of, with Yellow Jacket, which this battle is so fun because you have like the little toy things from, you know, because Cassie is a child, she likes toys, but like they shrink down and it's like it looks like actual battle scenes, except for the fact that they just pick it up like it's nothing and just throw it like it's nothing, because there's like one bridge, like it's like the train goes under a bridge, so Cross ducks and then Scott just picks it up and throws it at him. He lands on the rails, and then the train is about to hit him, but then we cut to like the normal shot and you just see the train topple over. But it isn't necessarily going all that well, and Scott only has one more move that he can play. He has to go subatomic in order to destroy the suit. So he says he says his goodbyes, probably didn't hear it, to his daughter, and goes inside, and subatomic smashes through the suit, and then the suit implodes upon itself, and I'll see you again, I don't know, next year for being MODOK, I guess, because that's what happened. But because of the fact that he did that, Scott is now shrinking forever. Until Scott kind of gets his senses back to him. He then remembers the disc, so he tries the red disc, there's nothing. He tries the blue disc, there is something. So he opens up his regulator, puts it inside, and then hits the button and comes back to normal. And he saved the day. And then Hank later on asks him if he remembers anything from being so small. And Scott is like, no, because I guess the mind cannot comprehend something like that. Which is kind of weird with what happens in the future, but we'll go with it for now. My guess is that he hasn't become small enough, because like the middle part, I guess you don't really remember, but at the smallest point, that is what you remember, because that is the true quantum realm. But because of the fact that Scott came back, Hank now has hope that potentially they can find Janet. And also Scott and Hope become a couple because I guess they're two attractive people in the movie. So it kind of has to happen. And Paxton later on tells Scott that everything goes okay, that it's all fine, that he was processed correctly, and he did not break out of jail, he was released. Everything is fine, don't you worry about it. Basically as a thank you for, I guess, saving his life. And then later on, we have Luis, who tells Scott that an Avenger, Falcon, is looking for him. And during this, we have a reference to Spider-Man, and this was made before they had the deal struck, I think, with Sony. This was just a fun little jab, because after this movie came out, that's when we got the announcement of Spider-Man in the MCU, which I think came out in the beginning of 2016, maybe end of 2015. But the fact that they make a reference to it, and if you kind of do the calculations, that means that Spider-Man, during at least the end of the movie, has been, I don't know, Spider-Man 3 times. He has saved maybe 3 people. That's it. And he's already making a name for himself. That's my boy! And then in the mid-credit scene, we have the reveal that Hank and Janet back in the day were working on a new suit. However, now he has the realization that they were really making this suit for Hope. So Wasp is coming in the next one. which is called Ant-Man and the Wasp. And then in the post-credit scene, we have Captain America Civil War. We have basically Bucky trapped, and then Cap being like, you know, because of the Accords, Tony can't really help us. And then Falcon is like, I might know a guy, which is Ant-Man. And I will say this, I know people back in the day complained about this post-credit scene because it was just a clip from another movie. I would rather have a post-credit scene like that than anything that Marvel has done in the Multiverse Saga, because most of these post-credit scenes have never been followed up. I mean, in 2021, I think, we had the Eternals come out, at which point we had Blade introduced. Yeah, we don't even know if that movie, by the time of recording this, if the movie is coming out at all. And by the time this uploads, you might actually know if the movie's not coming out or what. It is so weird. And also you had like Shang-Chi, who had a movie in 2021 and has still not gotten a sequel. Might have been announced this year or might be close to being announced, but at the moment of recording this, it has not been announced. So it's like there's a lot of uncertainties. I mean, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I may not like that movie, but that thing had a post-credit scene that kind of sets up another movie before or maybe during Doomsday. Like, it's either before Doomsday or like after Doomsday, but before Secret Wars. But mainly another Doctor Strange movie needs to come out before the Secret Wars. We have like nothing is being done with Blade, nothing is being done with the Eternals, nothing is being done with like anything. It is so weird. I mean, I know that the Eternals got cancelled and everything, but still, that movie ended on a cliffhanger and we haven't seen characters in a long time. So I would rather have a post-credit scene that is just a clip from the next movie than a post-credit scene that leads to nothing. Also, with that being said, that has been the spoiler talk. We have covered basically the whole movie. Yeah, I really like this movie. I gave it a 9 out of 10 for a reason. I actually really enjoy this movie, and that probably has everything to do with Edgar Wright, because I will say, while I like Ant-Man, his movies after this, it's nothing but going downhill, boys. It just goes downhill after this. So Edgar Wright really was the heart and soul of this movie, because in the next movie, I mean, the movie still works, but the problem is the fact that they put too much stuff in the next movie, and then they ruined Kang in the third. So yeah, fantastic job, Ant-Man. Ah, if Edgar Wright stayed, if only he just sucked it up and just did the Avengers cameo. Man, what a movie series we potentially could have had. Maybe. I don't know if it's true, but potentially. But also, this is what you get for being part of a cinematic universe. You kind of need to keep into account what happens within the cinematic universe. I mean, look at all the TV shows. Defenders was basically ruined because of the fact that they had to be careful not to do too big of things, because of the fact that, well, it could not interfere with the movies, right? But I'm gonna call it a day here, so let me know your thoughts about Ant-Man in the comment section down below. Be as spoiler filled as you can. What was your favorite moment and what was your least favorite moment? And are you also a believer of the fact that Edgar Wright made the first Ant-Man movie, or not, as in made it good? But with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching, and I do hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please like button, subscribe if you're new, if you're not already, turn on notifications. Don't forget to check out my Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And I'll see you guys potentially next week when we go back into the world of the blind with an insane person with a gun and a woman who likes nachos. Bye!